on Power BI for Excel users. My name is George Mount. I am a Microsoft Excel MVP, LinkedIn Learning instructor, author with O'Reilly, and I do data analytics training and consulting professionally. These sessions I run for free just as a way to give back to the community, to practice new material, and to help new analysts out in the field. So no charge. These are recorded. I know this one I had to reschedule a couple of times. I was out in kind of like a rural area where the internet wasn't so good, so I just made the call to wait till I got home. So sorry for the rescheduling there, but glad some of us were able to find the room at the right time, and you are here to learn a little bit about Power BI. So let's talk about what we're going to cover today. And if you do have any questions, you are welcome to use the chat. I don't have the camera or microphone turned on just to avoid like any ambient sounds. So you are welcome to use the chat, and I will keep an eye on the chat. We're going to look at the basics of Power Query and Power BI. We're going to look at some basic DAX measures. We're also going to look at some basic report building. So taking it, from beginning to middle to end, and not just building the charts. That's a part of Power BI. There's a whole lot other stuff going on under the hood that actually shares some DNA with Excel. And I really do want to emphasize, what you as an Excel user, I'm assuming that you're, in the weeds with Excel, use Excel a lot. You are a little curious as to know, like, what is Power BI about? How would that help me? What are the similarities and differences? So that's what the goal is for today. And to meet that achievement, I like to keep these sessions super hands-on and participative. So let me share the link right now. And those of you who have been here before know that you're gonna like have this link basically memorized by the end of the session, because I do share it quite a bit with people like coming in and out. Okay, so let me put the link in the chat here. Okay, so the download files. All right, there. All right, so what we're gonna do, excuse me, is click the link and they should download. So just give that a second. Make sure that you decompress, extract everything in here. Okay. And everything you need is in here. So slides are here, workbooks are here. If I'm using a file, it's in here. So just make sure that you check it before you ask. It's all there, or it should be. And if it's not, I will update this link, and then you would just re-download it. So all I would have you do, if you could, and I see people coming in already, is I'm just going to put that in the chat again. Just give me some like sign of intelligent life that you've got this thing downloaded, and then we can proceed. So I left a little thumbs up like under the link if you want to do that. If you want to use like, okay, yeah, I see a thumbs up reaction. People seem to like that more than the one in the chat for whatever reason. I guess it's easier to get to, bigger button. Okay, I see another thumbs up. All right, so I'm assuming everybody's rolling there. And if we do have people coming in asking for the downloads, you know where to send them. Also, recording will go out over email. So check the email that you registered with. I'm going to send out an email with like all the stuff after that. So just to, get that out in the open, because I get asked a lot about some of that stuff. All right, so what are we going to do to get started? Like I said, this is a session for Excel users, okay? And I really want to kind of like map your mental model from Excel into the basics of Power BI. So we're going to look at some basic Power Query data profiling. Now, this stuff you can do in both tools, and that's important to know that like I said, there's some shared ancestry between Excel and Power BI. Basically, what happened is that, let me fire this up shortly here. Okay, so, we've got, oh, that's not what I wanted. Okay, I didn't even know you could do that with slides. Anyway, okay, so, we have Power Query. Okay. And that's for, again, we've talked about this a bunch. you can read my book, you can check out the recordings. ETL, right? Extract, transform, load. So this is like data cleaning, transformation, okay? And, Excel has that, okay? And then we have Power Pivot, okay? That's your data modeling. There's DAX measures, so, like year to date, month to date, uh, you know, um, segmentation, like customer segmentation, viewing parts of the whole and ranking and things like that. You can do all that stuff with Power Pivot. And then there's this last one called Power View, which was supposed to be for like interactive visuals. We don't have that in Excel anymore. So basically what happened is that all got shipped off to Power BI. So Power BI is kind of like the lost cousin of Excel. So, we do have Power Query in Excel. We got Power Pivot in Excel. Okay, we don't really have Power View in Excel anymore. That's Power BI. So Power BI is really focused on like data visualization, interactive dashboards and stuff like that, but it's still using by and large the same basic architecture as Excel. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, I don't know what I did with those slides. Let's go back to here. We're going to go into this first one, and we are going to be using Power Query in Power BI. So for some of you, this may be, the same concept, just wrapped in a little different packaging. Maybe some of you have never used Power BI before or Power Query. In either case, that's fine. Okay, so here's our data set, but we're not going to open this in Excel. Let's actually open up a new Power BI workbook here. So hopefully you all have Power BI desktop installed on your computers. Not going to go into like the licensing and sharing and all that stuff that goes into Power BI. I'm just going to assume you got Power BI desktop installed, and we'll just take it from there. Okay, so let's go ahead and just create a blank report right now. That's fine. Okay, hopefully everybody sees something like this. So let me just do, I have a blank Power BI report open. Just give me like a little thumbs up or something like that to know that you're ready to roll here. Okay, so I see some thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, so like Power Query itself, with Power BI, we don't really store data in it, okay? It's really more of a medium for visualizing and processing data. So generally, you're going to be getting data from other places. Now, just like in Power BI or Power Query in Excel, that can be a lot of different options, right? If you come up here to get data, you'll see, it can be from the database, it can be from the web, so that doesn't change. Okay, we're going to import data in from Excel, and it's a pretty common feature, so it's right there, the first one. Let's go ahead and just click that. Okay, so we're going to need to roll over to our downloads. Okay, and let's go back to that first session. I'm sorry, the first section, I should say. Okay, and then just find that one. I'll give everybody a second to do that. Again, it's in your downloads, and if you don't have those downloads, actually nobody came in late, so you can just scroll up to the top and find that link. Okay, so give everybody a second to do that. Just click over into your downloads and just drill in here. Okay, there are a couple layers to get to the content, but let's go ahead and load that in right now. Okay, so this is similar to Power Query, right? We're creating a connection here. Now we have a couple of options, okay? There's sheet one. We could do that. Probably better to, and you'll notice we could get a little preview of either. Now they look the same. It's probably more precise to choose just penguins. Now what is this signifying? This is that it's a table right in the workbook rather than just the entire worksheet. So again, need to know a lot of different concepts. A lot of these are in my book or in previous recordings, okay? Tables are the way to go. Makes your life a little easier with a numerous number, be repetitive, of other tools related to Excel, and Power BI is one of them. So this is going to be a little more efficient, more robust way to load the data in. Let's go ahead and choose that one. And let's transform our data. Okay, so this is going to bring us into Power Query, and this is going to look pretty similar to what you would see in Excel. All right, hopefully everybody's doing good so far. Let's do a couple things here. Now, I'm not going to do a lot of data cleaning per se right now. I've done other sessions on data cleaning and Power Query, and I'm sure I'll have more coming up. But one thing that's good to know about here with Power Query is the data profiling features. As I like to say, it's not really worthwhile trying to clean your data if you don't know what makes it dirty, okay? And this data profiling feature is a great tool for that. So if you come over to view right here in your ribbon, okay, there are a few options here called data preview, all right? So what we're gonna do is let's click some of these on, really all of them but monospace. We don't really need that one. That's just gonna change the font. But if you click any of these, what you're gonna see is there are some features here that show me, for example, are there empty values in this data set, right? So if I see bill length, for example, you will see that fewer than 1% of the cells are marked as missing. Just like in Power Query back in Excel, these are marked as null, okay? So it's not really zero, okay? That's something different. We do have a dedicated keyword for missing values here in Power Query. I can come over maybe to the island column. You'll see we get a distribution of those values right there. So I can see just how many observations for each category are found there. So really, really helpful feature. Okay, so we've imported the data. We do see we have some missing values. You know, if we wanted to hide that or filter them out or do whatever we needed to do, we could do that. So I'm going to go ahead and let's just kind of get our feet wet here. I'm going to sort this data A to Z. I think it might already be sorted like that, but let's go ahead and click species and let's sort this A to Z. And just like back in Excel with Power Query, you'll see that everything here is going to be recorded under applied steps, right? We have our recipe here. We see every step that's being made, and we do not have that opportunity to just come in, and make any changes willy-nilly to the data. So, Power BI is a lot more rigid in many ways compared to Excel. If you've got data where you're constantly kind of massaging it and tweaking it and moving, copy, pasting, and cutting, and that's not really going to fly in Power BI. So there's a lot more like restrictions on how we kind of use the data. Everything needs to be in a structure like this, like a table, and there's some other things, in Power Query, some other data types, but it's a lot more nailed down than just kind of moving data around at your will that you would back in Excel. Okay, so that being said, let's go ahead and bring this into Power BI. So back in Excel, this would be close and load. It's called close and apply here in Power BI. And let's go ahead and do both of these. We're going to apply our transformations. We're going to close and load this into our report. Okay, so that'll take a second there. All right. And now we've got a data set over here called penguins. Okay, and our next step will be to start to build some basic visualizations and reports in here. Any questions about anything that we've done so far? And I think I saw some people coming in, so I'll put the downloads in the chat there. Okay, I see a couple things coming in the chat. Let me go back to the slides. Yeah, no Mac for Power BI. Yep, good call out there. I think I skip right to this screen. I'll check what screen that is, and I can try to help out. But yeah, this is a PC only product. Cool. All right. So that was the basics there. We're gonna go ahead and if you have other questions. Question about Copilot. Yeah, I haven't really dabbled with Copilot in Power BI, so I can't speak too much to that. But it is there. So um, the build visuals with your data screen. Okay, let me go back here. Um, yeah, you should see something like this. If actually, yeah, okay. All right. If you see something different than me, what I would suggest is just opening the solution file that's in the downloads. And that way you can compare what you've got to what I've got right now. That's probably the best way, because otherwise it's kind of difficult. I can't see your screen or anything like that, but you do have the solution file there. Okay. All right, let's take a little bit of a detour here and look at how would you, so as we talked about earlier, right, this stuff is not new to Excel. So we have Power Query. We also have Power Pivot. Now, I've done some sessions on Power Pivot in some previous workshops, okay? We will be using that same basic architecture in Power BI. It's a little more sophisticated in Power BI than Excel, but people are more familiar with Excel. It's more flexible, it's more well known, it's available on the Mac, although I don't think Power Pivot is at the moment. But there are some benefits for taking a data model that you've built in Power Pivot in Excel and then moving it over into Power BI. So again, this is a workshop on Power BI for Excel users. So that's what we're going to do now. How would you take something that you built in Power Pivot so you don't have to do all the work again, getting it into Power BI? So let's check out how that would be done. We're going to go over to section 2 here. So we are in load data model to Power BI. Okay. So let's go ahead and actually open up this workbook just for a second to see what we're up against here. Okay, so we've got a data set. This is the Superstore data. If you've used Tableau before, it might look familiar. All right. And now if I go over into, and if you don't see this, don't worry about it because we'll talk about it together in Power BI. But assuming that you've got Power Pivot open in Excel, let's go over to Power Pivot and manage just to kind of kick the tires of what we've got here. So we've done this work. Now, this is a very simple data model. You could have something much more complex, but just for the sake of demonstration, okay, we've got this data, okay, and we've created the relationships, all right, so we've connected order, people, and returns, and that allows us to build more sophisticated reports, allowing us to leverage all three of those tables at once without needing to write a bunch of lookup statements. You don't want a big table with lookup statements because that's going to really slow down your workbook. That's where a large portion of errors when people say my workbook's slow, it doesn't open, it doesn't calculate. A lot of times because people are looking up a bunch of data into one like Franken table. Power Pivot avoids that, okay, and that's what we're trying to do here. Okay, so let's go back out of that, and we're going to look at manage measures, and it looks like I've created some basic measures here to allow us to calculate things like profit margin, sales, and so forth. And there could be a lot of other stuff in here. Again, super simple data model that we built here, but we still have done some work here, and maybe we wouldn't want to have to redo all of that in Power BI. So how can we take this data model, okay, and just port it back right into Power BI? What are the pros? What are the cons, strengths and weaknesses of doing that? So let's go ahead and open up Power BI desktop. And we're going to just start a new report again. So you can go ahead and either save or close, whatever you want to do with the penguins is fine. Okay. And let's just start a blank report here. Okay. So what we're going to do here, we're going to go to Power BI. We are going to go to, now it looks like this had maybe changed a little bit. Let's do, is it options? Let me just do a second here. No. Okay. Power BI's options change all the time. There we go. Okay. So what we want to do is, if you could, let's walk through this again. If you have your file open, Let's do Power BI. Just open up Power BI Desktop. I'll do that again. Okay. And you're going to have to do a little bit of like a two-step here. So let's go ahead and create a new report. Okay. So just do that. And now what we're going to do is go into File. So rather than one of these options where it says import data from Excel, well, we are going to import data from Excel, but we're importing data from the data model. Okay, so it's a little bit of a distinction. So let's go to File. Okay, and now what we're going to do is go to Import. Now, this is all being recorded, so if you missed that, if you're not really sure the difference, that's okay. Power Query, Power Pivot, Power View under Import is what we want. Let's go ahead and click that one. And now we're going to go back through these steps. We're going to navigate to wherever this data is found. In this case, it is that load data model to Power BI. Okay, give everybody a second to do that. Let me know when you see this screen here. Yeah, I see a hand raised. I don't know if that means that you got there or if there's a question, but okay, cool. Okay. All right. So let's read the fine print here. We don't work directly with Excel workbooks, but we can extract the useful content to use in Power BI. A new Power BI file will be made for you. It will contain as much as their content. It could take a few days. Okay, so this is almost like a conversion, okay? So it's not going to be perfect, but it'll be better than building everything from scratch here. So let's click Start. We'll take our time. Okay, now we have a couple of options here. It says, do we want to create a copy of this data model or do we want to keep a connection? So that's basically, do we want to link this Power BI report to the original data model or do we want to just break it and start over? Okay. Obviously, pros and cons, right? Do you want it to still be connected? If one connects, if one updates one place, do you want it to connect to the other place, et cetera, et cetera? We're going to go ahead and let's just do copy. Okay, so we're just going to copy the data. So this is just going to make a fresh copy. It's not going to be linked to the Excel data model anymore. Okay, but that's going to be a little easier to maintain, faster, memory efficient. So trade-offs, right? Let's just click copy data. It's going to work on that. Okay, it's telling you what it's doing. It's working on the queries. It's working on migration. Okay, so there's our data. Now we get a little info button here. It says the table referenced exceeds the maximum size and couldn't be copied. We've kept a connection to the original Excel workbook instead. So for whatever reason, this one is still a live connection. If we wanted to go in and, delete that live connection and just, redo this original table, that would be fine. But we've migrated the table. And the important part here is that once we close this, okay, what we're going to see is all these data sets are connected, right? We've got them all. We can use them. Okay, so if you're kind of like, again, if you're still kind of experimenting as an Excel user with Power BI and you have a data model in Power Pivot that you're using now and you just want to like kick the tires on what this would look like in Power BI, this is perfect for that. Importing it, there's still going to be some like kinks to massage out, but that's okay because now what we'll see is that all of our data tables are here. We also have the connections, right? The relationships have been maintained. Okay. And if we even go back, so what I'm doing here is toggling between, these are like just in Power Pivot, there's a data view, there's a diagram view. We have the same features over here. We can go to table view, we can go to model view. And if I go back to, let's go back to table view, we should actually see, so for example, where we had total profits in the data model in Excel, we actually got that right here. So the measures were brought over and you can even see them if I click on, and again, I'm in table view. I went to orders. Okay, I clicked on an orders. You'll see they're all different types of fields here in the table. The ones with the little calculator tells me that these were calculated DAX measures. Okay, and if I click on them, just like in Excel, there's a little formula bar. We can see the DAX measure there. So would still need to be, you know, we'd want to like go back and figure out the live connection versus the copy and which one works best for us and so forth. But, you know, if you want a quick way to see what would my data model look like in Power BI and maybe what are some specific visuals, maybe you're really having a hard time building a specific visual in Excel or getting Excel to do something in a specific way, this could be a really quick win for you to try that in Power BI. Okay. So that is everything with that particular section. Any questions so far about what we've done? Okay, and I think people might have come in since the last time. So just to reset the room, I put the downloads in the chat again. We are recording. Recording will go out later today. Okay, so let's go ahead and this is the final demo that I've got, and then there might be time. Actually, we'll probably just do this, and then there is an exercise if you want to do it on your own time. I just don't think we would have time to like actually walk through it together anyway. So you can just do it on your own time, and you'll have the file there. Okay, so let's look at this one together, and then we'll kind of reset the room, give you some resources, and send you on your way here. Okay, so we are going to look at some basics of building visuals. So we looked at, this is kind of why I did it this way, right? We looked at using Power Query in Power BI for some basic data profiling. Okay, we looked at Power Pivot. We just took what we knew from Excel and Power Pivot and just moved it right over. Obviously, there's a lot more to learn. This is a 1 hour session, so I can't, I don't really want to get into DAX and Power BI. We'll just kind of leverage what we knew from previous sessions in Power Pivot. Now what we're going to do is get into the visual part. Now, again, this is in a lot of ways kind of the secret sauce of Power BI. This is stuff that Excel doesn't really have, and we're going to look at some of those features right now. So what we're going to do is go back to that Penguins data set. Now, I know that I said to close out of it, so we will walk through importing it again. I think that's probably good practice anyway. And what we'll do is build some basic functionality, okay, to build a report here in Power BI. So you can close out your previous reports if you want. We do have solution files to all this stuff as well, so don't worry too much about thinking you're losing your work. That's pretty easily recoverable here. So let's go ahead and just open up a new Power BI report here. Okay, and I'm going to go to, all right, let's make a blank report. Okay, and we will import our data, okay, from Excel. And we're going to go to this creating interactive visuals. Okay, and you should see one creating interactive visuals. So go ahead and open that. I'll give everybody a second to do that. Just give me like a thumbs up or something like that once you have done that. If you know what to do from here, go ahead and do it. Otherwise, we'll walk through it in a second together. Any questions about what to do from here? Cool. All right. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate it. Yeah, when it's online, it's hard to know, where everybody is. So any, signs of intelligent life are certainly appreciated. Okay. And for those of you just joining us, I just put the downloads in the chat there. All right. So Penguins, select the table. Better option than just selecting everything on the worksheet, because what if somebody like just put some notes somewhere randomly in the worksheet? You're going to pick up on that when the data gets imported. So we just want the data in the table. All right, let's go ahead and click Penguins. We'll go ahead and click load this time. We're just going to bypass Power Query. We already did that the last time, looking at data profiling and so forth. So we'll just bring this right into our report here. Okay, we'll give this a second. All right, it says there are pending changes in your careers that haven't been applied. All right, so that'll take a second. Don't worry about it. You'll have your data And you should see something like this, penguins, okay? Now, if you come over to table view, this will show you the data that is available to you, okay? If we go into model view, this will show us the data model. We don't have a data model per se here, it's just the one table, okay? And we're not really making any measures or anything like that. Just keeping it simple, flat file, flat table. Let's see what kind of visuals we can cook up in, like 20 minutes or so. All right, so that's the goal for right now. So the way this is going to work, if you ever used Tableau before or a lot of other business intelligence tools, similar scheme here, a lot of dragging and dropping. We have this blank canvas and we are able to drag and drop those visuals into our dashboard here. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, there is this set of visuals here. Now we're going to select these visuals, right? We're going to say, what kind of chart do we want? Sometimes it's not even a chart. We can add tables and things like that. I don't think we're going to get to that today. But what chart do we want? We're going to say, where do we want it? We're just going to drag and drop it somewhere on our grid here. And then from there, we'll have the opportunity to make some changes, say what field we want where, and it's very visual, very intuitive, a lot of drag and dropping here. So let's go ahead and start with a stacked column chart. You'll see stacked bar chart versus column is just horizontal versus vertical. I'm going to go ahead and do an up and down column chart. So let's go ahead and just click on that. And okay, I thought you dragged it, but I guess you click on it. Once it's clicked in there, you can move it around if you want. But go ahead and just click right on the stacked column chart, okay? And you can move it around if you want, right? You can do whatever you want, okay? I'll make it a little bigger for right now. We'll worry later on about, obviously it would be good if you were building a real dashboard to kind of have this wireframe before you just go off to the races here, but we're just kicking the tires and we'll play around with building a couple of visuals here. So what you're going to see is that I've created the stack column chart. Power BI is going to ask me what kind of data do I want mapped to specific elements of that chart here. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and let's click the drop down here under penguins. I can either search for fields right here with that search box, or if I wanted to, I could just drag them. So let's take island and let's say I want that on the x-axis, okay? And then let's go ahead and bring body mass to the y-axis there. Okay, and now we've got a nice bar chart. Okay, so fair enough. Now this is saying that it's a sum of body mass. Maybe that's not the best way to visualize this data. Maybe it would be better to visualize this as an average. So let's go ahead and try that out. If we drop down, we'll click that on, and let's go ahead and just change that to an average. Okay, and now we get a better visual here. Okay, so if you've delved into Power Pivot before, this might be familiar. This is almost like creating an implicit measure, and we talked about the difference between implicit and explicit measures in previous sessions. It's probably better to do this explicitly, but we're going to go ahead and just do an implicit measure right here via the drop down, right? Let's say we want an average here. Okay, so you'll see that this is a little bit more interactive. There are some tooltips that are built in here. So if I hover on any of these charts, or any of the bars, I should say, we'll get a little bit more information and context. All this stuff is customizable. So it's just like Excel. If you're thinking, how would I do this? Or is there a way to do that? The answer is probably yes. No, I can't go into all of them right now. That's why I do consulting and training. But suffice it to say, you can customize this and make lots of different charts here. But you'll see this is already looking pretty nice, a nice professional looking visualization here in Power BI. So let's go ahead and add another one. Any questions about what we've done so far? Cool, thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and build another one. We're going to make a scatter plot now. So what I would suggest is make sure that this is like going to happen, I guarantee you. But if you're going to build another chart, make sure that you're clicked out of the chart that you're working on now, because otherwise Excel is going to, like if I change this to a stack bar chart, you'll see that it it's nice that it allows us to easily iterate between chart types, but it's kind of annoying, when you're thinking you're building a second chart type and then you end up just changing the chart you already got. So make sure that you click out of it. Just click anywhere in the blank canvas. Okay. Make sure you're out of the bar chart, and let's create the scatter plot. So what I'm going to do is, let's say, right here, here's our scatter plot. Now it added it down here. I don't think we really have enough space right there, so we can go ahead and move it if you want, and let's just give ourselves plenty of space here, especially as we're, building. May as well use the space that we've got. Okay, and let's go ahead, and I'm going to put bill length on the x-axis here. Okay, and let's go ahead and put build depth on the y-axis. Okay, so this doesn't look like a lot right now. It says we're comparing sum of bill length to sum of bill depth, and we've got the one scatter. Okay, so again, aggregations are going to be real important once we get into Power BI and DAX and things like that. The way that you aggregate your data is often really the key of what's going to drive how the rest of your work functions. Okay, so let's make sure that we've actually got the proper aggregation set up on here. So where we say x-axis, right now it's summing all the bill lengths. We don't really want this aggregated. We want to show all the points here. So let's do don't summarize. So now you're going to see we do have individual values for each bill length. We want to do the same thing with the y-axis. Let's go ahead and don't summarize that. So now we have a nice looking scatter plot. Okay, and again, we do the tooltips and so on and so forth. One more thing that we're going to do here is, let's take species. I'm going to drag this to the legend. Okay, and that colors in those points by species. Actually kind of hard to do in Excel. You ever try to conditionally format a scatter plot or other plots? It's actually kind of difficult. So what's really nice with this is that, if we wanted to filter our data by any of these points, this is called cross filtering. So any one of these points is actually going to drive filtering the rest of our visual. Now, this is something that, is pretty difficultly done in Excel. By default, it's set up to do in Power BI. And that really speaks to the interactive nature of these visualizations. Okay, so that's that. Let's do one more thing here. What I'm going to do is, let's make a slicer. So I'm going to go ahead and let's move the bar chart down a little bit. I'm going to put the slicer up here, I think. Let's go ahead and do that. And you may have used a slicer before in Excel. Similar idea to what we're going to do here in Power BI. Okay, the slicer is it this one? No, it's right there. Okay, so it's the fifth row. It's the third one right here, and it's got a little filter button. Make sure that you click out of the other charts. So make sure you're not in our scatter plot or our bar plot. Okay, and let's go ahead and click slicer. Okay, and okay, there it is, and it populated nicely in there right now. So the slicer is what it sounds like. Now what we talked about is that yes, you can cross filter any of these fields, and it will filter the rest of the visual. But what if you want, this isn't the most user-friendly way, but also, maybe there's a field that is not represented in this data that you would want the user to be able to filter by. So for example, maybe we want our user to select this data, filter it by sex. I'm going to go ahead and click on sex right there, right, with my slicer selected. So you'll see our checkboxes. If we go, so this right now is like a checkbox. If we go to under visualizations, there should be a way, yeah, where it says format my visual. Okay, so right here, it's this button right here. So make sure you have your slicer selected. You can already see that it's working. Okay, if we go to the second option where it says format your visual, right here under slicer settings, if we wanted to make this like a tile style or a drop down, okay, whatever works. Tile's kind of nice, people can see the options just at a glance, but it does take up a lot of space. So we have the space right now, may as well use it. Let's go ahead and make that a tile. Now there are some blanks in here, and again, the blanks are the missing values. So if we didn't want those, we could go back to Power Query. This is not the place to make ad hoc changes. You will need to go back to Power Query and filter those rows out, or do whatever you want to get rid of those filtered values. Okay, so that is a quick visual that we made. Didn't take a lot of time, and really pretty neat that we were able to whip this up just in a few minutes there. And obviously there's a lot you can do here, a lot of value with Power BI. Let me show you the solution here, or the exercise. So if you wanted to experiment with this, you are welcome to do that. The solution is available for you. This one, we are going to need to create some measures in Power BI on your own. So as you saw, it's really similar to Power Pivot in Excel. You could even build this in Excel if you want, and then port those measures over, or build them directly in Power BI. But that is the last one there. Okay, let me go ahead and first check for any questions. Making sense so far? Everybody doing good with what we've covered? Awesome. Okay, if you do have any questions, just let me know in the chat. Okay. Hey, give everybody a second to think for that. Okay. I'm going to throw some resources for you in the chat. These will also go out over email. Okay, so looks like people are signing off, which is fine. If you've got a second, I know we're ending early today. Feedback. So I left this in the chat. This would help me out a lot. It's only going to take like a minute, okay? And you will get my Modern Excel Starter Kit as a thank you. I do a lot of these. I do them for free. I really don't need money, but I do need like marketing and data and things like that to run my business. So if you could fill this out, that would be amazing for me. You'll also get it's like a 4 or 5 page PDF just to say thank you for doing that. So if you could do that, I would really, really appreciate it. I like doing these. Unfortunately, I can't teach Excel and Power BI for free. So this helps me kind of like, support what I do professionally. Also, upcoming events. I've got a whole bunch of them. Most of these are recorded and most of these are free. So you can sign up for as many as you want. If you want to kind of level up and get a copy of my book and get a certificate of attendance and get some other goodies, I do have like an intensive session coming up in a couple of weeks where we're going to go through each layer of modern Excel together and go through how do they relate and how can you really use them to get more insights, to not need more software, to not pass things off to other teams, and truly operate autonomously as the citizen data analyst, scientist, and engineer in Excel. So if that's interesting, you can sign up for that. If you don't have the budget, I understand. Okay, so that's why I do all these other sessions. But if you can't sign up for that, feedback is great. Come to as many of these as you want. Share it with your coworkers. Do whatever you can do to help me out. Because, like I said, this is not free is not a business model in and of itself, but we could do other things and make it work. So with that being said, I think that's all the time that I need today. So really appreciate everybody's time and attention. Recording will go out with all these links and so forth, and hope to see you at another session soon. I think that's everything. So have a great weekend. Have a great Easter for those of you celebrating. And I think that's all. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Thanks, Miranda. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.